Hello, good evening. Is my audio audible? Is my voice audible? Am I audible? Can one of the panelists
To me,
please confirm
yes.
that? Great. And
Yes,
I can see
yes,
that.
yes, Pratap.
Yes, sir. Great. And I see that we have a lot of folks today. And I want to give you a little bit of context. And just give me a second. I'm just going to configure my PPT and try and figure this out. Let's, yes. Okay, I'm not going to do anything more. Great. Uh, Also confirm if you guys can see my screen and I'll go from here. Great. I see that all of you can see my screen. Perfect. Now, what has happened over the years is before I give you my intro, I think I have to set a little bit of ground rule and a lot of context into what interview is and how do we actually go about doing this, right? A lot of us know interview as an assessment strategy or an assessment tool. It's basically a place where you're judged upon what you're supposed to do. Now, over my experience, having taken close to about 6,000 interviews and having trained over 30K people, I have just one question, and this is very simple, right? By the way, that's me. You can also see me on the screen. I'm sure you're all seeing me on the video. It's really nice to put up my photo after 8 years. Imagine cracking every interview you give. Now, I want you to take 30 seconds and just imagine that outcome. Every interview that you go to, right? Irrespective of whether it's a technical, non-technical, it's somebody from the finance field, because I see a lot of MBA grads here. I think this is something that you have to ask yourself. Just imagine the outcome of this question. Imagine cracking every interview you go. Now keep that outcome in mind and remember that we will work backwards to achieve that outcome today. And that is what I want to help understand from all of you and also try and see if a little bit of my experience can help you all, right? So the expectation and the ground rule is that I will not talk about anything in specific. I will not talk about technicality. I will not talk about non-technical interview. I will not talk about the questions that you're going to encounter because some of them are very generic, like the most basic one that I've heard over the years and I've asked, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, right? I would love to answer that if it comes up in a Q&A, but I will not be taking those. What I'll be taking you through is very simple myths of an interview, right? We have for a long time understood interview in a very different manner, and I want to bust those myths. And I want to help you guys understand what an actual interview process is. And I also want to take you through techniques to crack an interview, something that I truly believe has helped me. And I'll also come to how this technique came into place in the first step. And basic communication. This is actually a part of the two that I'm going to talk about. So I hope all of you are geared up. If you're all geared up, I think you can just put yes in the chat and we'll go from there. By imagining itself, I'm getting nervous. I'm definitely there with you, sir. I will actually talk to you about a little technique that I've used over the years. And those of you who feel nervous about it, I think we can all get there. And I'll talk to you about it. Great. I see a lot of people already excited about it. Perfect. Just hoping my system works. Great. Now, let's talk a little bit about what is an interview. Now, age old, it's an age old term. And I'll tell you a little bit about the word in itself before I get into what it actually means, right? In about 1822, when the English came to India, that's the first time they actually came to India, right? They brought this concept of the word in itself called interview. Before that, it was called a conversation. If you actually translate the vernacular language of Hindi, Kannada, the process of it in English, it would be called an conversation. It was never called an interview. So if your grandfather actually went to get a job somewhere, people would tell him, hey, you're going to have a conversation with that person, right? But after the 1822 and after the 1856, it changed to becoming an interview. This is a foreign concept to all of us. Now, over the last 120 years, what we have done is we have understood interview to be a process of somebody sitting there and judging us. I'll be very honest, over the 5,000 interviews that I've taken, I don't think HRs judge you. No, they, however, understand where you're coming from and try and see if you fit the profile. So I want you to clear that in your mind that somebody is sitting there to judge you. Interview is a process to have a conversation about your background, your skill set, and your comfortability of the job. That is what an interview today stands for. And especially since that we have moved away from our conventional understanding of interviews and conventional ways of taking it, we have now arrived at a very profound and online world where interviews are just about getting to know, hey, where do you live? What do you do? What is it that we can do to help you? And was, are you comfortable? And there are some other questions like, is my screen visible and am I audible? But that's part of the whole interview process. So whenever you think of an interview, I would urge you to think about it in a very, very simple manner, that it is a conversation you're going to have with an HR about your whole skill set, about your comfortability, and just about yourself. And I can vouch for it from an HR's point of view that, boss, nobody is actually judging you. I'll be very honest. I've spoken to close to about 2,000 HRs in my career. Nobody wants to sit there and judge other people, right? So, what is an interview is something that you have to decide, but I would urge you to decide in the manner of conversation and not in the manner of judgment. I hope that actually clears up a lot of conversation in your own head, because when you talk to yourself, that is what is important. Now, why do I call it a needle in a haystack is very interesting stats that I have for you. Only 3 out of 10 candidates got selected at top firms. And when I say 3 out of 10, that's about 30%, right? So you can think about it. If 100 people are applying, only close to about 30 people get selected. And I'm not talking about one firm, right? I'm not talking about one particular company. I'm talking about all the companies. So that's a very bad conversion rate for the country that we live in, right? Only 5 out of 10 candidates make it through to the second round. And those of you who think that this is just to make you nervous, it is not. I want you to focus on the opportunity here. You're part of the 5 people that's going to get through, right? Focus on that, because the rest of the 5 are not here in the session. As simple as that. Close to 30 lakh students apply to close to 1.3 lakh companies across the country every year. I started working with Dunzo in the year 2018, and I've taken close to 252 interviews only in Dunzo. You know how many of them actually, you know how many people actually applied? I'll give you about 30 seconds to take a wild guess in the chat box. Go for it. 5,000, great. Here it says 5,000, that's 2,000, that's 50,000, that's 10,000, 8,000. I think people are just throwing numbers right now. I'm just so happy that you think Dunzo could get about 20K, 30K. Okay, somebody is very precise, 95,000. Okay, great. 90K. Okay, I'll make this easier for all of you. Those of you who are still guessing, which I really love the fact that you're still guessing about it. There were close to 7,500. So let's do a little bit of math, right? Out of 7,500, 252 profiles got selected. Out of 250, oh, actually 855 profiles got selected. Out of which 252 I took an interview. Out of which I only hired 31 people. So do the math. 31 out of 7,000 people. The gap is a huge one. Now, why is this important? Is we all need to understand the problem at hand. Why is it that we interview so many people, but only few get selected? It's a very eminent question, right? 253 million people. Okay. Thank you, Siddharth. So when I looked at it and I started doing a little bit of introspection, I actually arrived at one method that I've used for a long time, but I'll also come to how that came into practice, right? Before I get into that, in 2019, I went around colleges and I asked people and I asked students, boss, what do you think interview means? I asked them a very simple question. What do you think interview means? And there were tens and thousands of people who have actually replied to that question over the years. But you know what happened when I asked about close to 50,000 students what an interview meant? All of them thought this is what an interview process looks like. People judge you for your English, people judge you for your technical skills, people are worried about your appearance. Out of 50,000 responses that we collected over the years in 2019 and 2000 early 20s, right? There were 3 responses which stood out across 50,000. That was people judge your English, people look at your technical skills, and people are worried about your appearances. And the reason I call these myths is because no HR ever said, hey, I'm judging your English, that's why you're bad at it. No HR ever said your technical skills are not something that I can't work with. The problem with these three answers are that over the years, we have been told that this is how an interview process will be. And today, when we are redefining the process, we are all looking at, hey, is that really true? Is that what we are actually designed to do? I'll take you through each of the myths in about 1 minute each. I have a stopwatch for myself and I make sure that I don't go above that, right? People judge your English, and let's be very honest, 3% of your entire communication comes from language. The remaining 97% comes from your thoughts. As an HR, I remember that I'll give you a very basic example. Over the years, I have taken interviews in Kannada, in Hindi, Telugu, Tamil, Gujarati, Punjabi, Bengali, Malayalam, because the candidate was worth it, because the candidate could do what I'm going to teach you in the next two slides. He or she could do that. HR needs English only if it is in a customer facing role. But if you're applying for a technical role, I might as well take you for your technical skills. That brings me to the second myth. Any skill, and I mean any skill, the skill that I have and the only skill that I have is about talking, right? Even that skill can be learned. If you know the basics of something, anybody in this world can teach you how to do everything. So when an HR sits in front of you and asks you, "Hey, do you know deep?" I'm not sure if you have there are technical folks out here, but if an HR sits and asks you, or if a line manager asks you in an interview, "Do you know DBMS or database management system?" He's not asking you if you know the extreme knowledge of DBMS. He's asking you, "Do you know the basics?" That's all you need to know, because after that, people don't judge your technical skills; they judge the attitude of learning. And I'll tell you what, that's the most basic understanding of what an interview is, right? And the third myth that I always thought was important in the non-digital world, that's what the students thought, people are worried about your appearance. 7,500 interviews were recorded and provided to us as a method to actually ask us to observe these recordings and come out with our observation and insights. Out of 7,500, 7,000 people, I'll be very honest, were not dressed for an interview. They were dressed to go out to a party. Out of those 7,000, close to 6,000 people got selected. My data is not wrong, right? The question is the perception wrong? So if you think that how I dress is actually important to an interview, no. Or I need to know the most of the technical skills that they are going to ask me in an interview, no. I need to have my English perfect and I need to be able to speak like Shashi Tharoor? No. These are the three myths that we want to bust. And we are trying to do this in every session that I take, in every discussion that I have with students, and in every colloquium that I go into every college. Right. And I'm just going to leave it out here that if you have any more myths, I'll actually want to listen to you. In about 5 minutes, we'll take a Q&A and we can get around asking questions in that. But more or less, these are the three myths that I wanted to talk about. And after that, I wanted to take you through the most basic outlining of an interview. Now, before we go ahead and understand what happens in an actual interview and how do you crack an actual interview, you need to understand the process of interview. The process starts with pre-work, then the actual interview, and then the post-interview. Now, I have only written one question out here for each of the parameter that I'm going to talk about, but there are a lot more things that you could do. And if you have a pen and a paper, I would suggest you write this down right now. I'm going to give all of you 30 seconds to pick up something nearby, even if it's just your phone, right? Pick up something, and we will go about talking about the pre-work first, and then I'll take you to the actual interview, then I'll take you to the post-interview, right? Your 30 seconds starts now. Pick up whatever you can get. Cool. There are participants raising hands, and I'm not really sure if we can allow people to speak right now, right? But I'm really glad that you guys are raising your hands, and I hope that you have something to say. But yep, I okay. There are more people raising hands. So if you have anything, keep it for the Q&A session. If you have any tips for other people, I think hit me up You will have my Instagram and you'll have my email ID at the end of this. We could probably talk about getting you to take sessions someday, right? Cool. Now, Avish, could you tell me how much time do I have? Like, what time do I end exactly? If you're on call,
So right now it's 7, so probably 7:30 or something is we are looking forward to.
to ending the session and the Q&A together.
Probably we can take up Q&A after that because I'm pretty sure students here must be having a lot of questions. So I want to give a little more time to that part.
Great. So I'll try and wrap up faster than that, and let's go from there. Cool.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Avish. Okay, let's talk about pre-work a little. Have you? And the first question that I often ask people is when they come into when they come into the interview room, or when they come onto the Zoom that I am taking an interview for, I look for one basic simple trait, that is curiosity. Now, curiosity is something that is a very important attitude in anybody who's coming to an interview. And I'll tell you how this works, right? When I had one, I can give you two or three examples, and I'll do that throughout the interview so that you relate better, throughout the session so that you relate better. Now, one of the examples is I had one of the persons come into an interview room, and he had done his homework so well that he was actually a mechanical engineer interviewing for a data analyst job at the company that I worked at. So he had two types of preparation that he had for himself. Preparation number one was he had gone down to every article that was written about my company, read it from 2016 till 2021, and then he knew everything about my company's revenue, my company's valuation, my company's strength, my company's opportunity, who are my competitors. Was I didn't know that much about my company, and I'll be very honest about it, right? Because my job is to just take interviews. The second thing that he did very, very well was he brushed up his basic data analytics skills in data analytics skills, right? Now, these are the two types of pre-work that I honestly look in people when I hire them. Now, if you really want that job, if you really think that that job is the most important part of getting ahead in my career, then you need to do that work. You need to be able to sit down, go to Google, understand what that company means. And I do three things, right? And I ask them three simple questions. I ask them, boss, do you know the values of my company? Do you know how much money we made last year? And do you know why we are doing what we are doing? Basically, our mission and vision statement. And then when that person answers this, and I get to know in right then and there that that person has done his homework, his or her homework, I ask them a very simple question, and this is the most trickiest question of all. Why my company? I'll tell you why this is important because all your pre-work is actually done to answer this question. Your understanding of my valuation, your understanding of my process, how many departments are there in my office, everything is done to answer this question so that you can insert yourself and say, hey, because you're doing this amazing work, right? You're solving this amazing problem. I want to join your company. This is one of the best advices I got when I was interviewing about 8 years ago. And this is something that I could tell you straight out of the bat that an HR sees you or a manager sees you being curious, you're already one step into into the company boss. It's a very simple thing. Now, it comes to the second part of after you've done your pre-work, and I'll also talk about how to beat your nervousness and everything in a while, right? I'll take that up maybe in a question if you have any. But yeah, actual interview process. How many of you, and I want you to probably raise your hands now more than ever, right? How many of you, one second, I'll actually ask the question, then we can. How many of you have been asked, or if you know of someone who have been asked of a question like this? Tell me about a time you failed. Do you know anyone, or have you been in an interview where an HR has asked this? Raise your hand if you've been there. Okay, 17, 20, 21. You can see the hand raising wala button at the bottom. We'll take it after that. All of you are finished? No? Okay. Are the remaining of you chatting with me? Repeat the question. Sir, is this okay? I'll take questions in a while, but yeah. The question is, have you ever been asked in an interview about, or do you know of someone who has been asked this very simple question? Tell me about a time that you failed. That is the question. Have you ever been asked that question in an interview? Or do you know anybody who has been asked this? And I'll tell you why this is important, right? I think 26 people is a good number. Thank you. Great. So when this question is asked, and this is a very simple understanding of what I know about this question. When this question is asked, it's about two things. It's not about your failure. It has nothing to do with your failure, because nobody talks about failure the way we do, right? I mean, failure is common. What it actually means is HR wants to know, what did you do after that event happened? There is always a why behind every question that is asked to you in a non-technical manner. Let's be very honest. We have been asked, where do you want to be in 5 years? What do you think failure looks like? Why are you doing what you're doing? All of these are very important questions, not at the surface level, but if you dig a little deeper, they are not asking you about your failure story. Don't go about telling them that. They're asking you, what is the pattern that you follow when you fail? What did you do immediately after failing? How do you think about failure? So these are the kind of patterns that I'm really interested to talk to you about. And these are the patterns that will help all of us actually capture most of the HR's interview and HR's mindset when we get into that. Then we have the post interview, which is a very simple logic. The logic is that if you've finished your interview, give it 10 days. If nobody reverts to you, call that person back. Simple. After 10 days, give it another 10 days, call that person back. If you have their number, if you don't have their number, email them. I would actually suggest you ping me offline to get those email templates, but I couldn't put it here for my own personal reasons. But give it 10 days of time, and I'll tell you why, right? HRs don't work like any other teams in the system. They have a long chain of things to follow. So one manager will take an interview, send that report to our HR. HR will then give it to the head of the HR. HR, then they will take it to the disposition team. That alone takes a week, guys. I'll be very honest. My team takes about close to, and not at Dunzo, obviously, but the other places that I consult, my team takes close to about 9 to 10 days just to review one interview. If it's a yes, it takes you 10 days to get an answer. If it's a no, it takes you about close to 8 days to get an answer. So I really want you guys to remember that post interview, it's your job to follow up. That shows that you're really, really interested in it. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I'm sorry, I know there's a lot of people, we can't really take that. So I do one thing before I actually get into the actual interview process and the simple technique to cracking an interview. Let's take close to 10 questions, if that's all right with everybody. Avish, is that all right? Okay, great. There's a Q&A. There is a Q&A. Yes, there is a Q&A option at the bottom. You guys can go there and put your questions there. I don't think we'll be allowing anyone to put it in the chat because it gets a little too chaotic. So yeah, I have the Q&A open here. I'll take what I can. Get about 10 minutes of Q&A, and then we can go back to doing actual process and then take another Q&A. Avish, is this open to public Q&A?
Sorry, Pratap. Yeah, sorry.
Is the Q&A section open to the?
Yes.
Cool.
So they can shoot in their questions on the Q&A chat.
So you would see something called Q&A at the bottom of your screens, right? Great. I'm saying, what do interviewer expect from us? Can we follow up in a campus interview? Yes. What to say to me, HR? I will give you that, sir. I'm so sorry I couldn't get that. What is the best answer? Based on a resume. Very good question. I think we should all appreciate Kunal here, as well as all the others. Darshan Gaikwad, your name is there. Thank you for putting it up.
Oh, I see a lot many questions which are usually asked in a campus interview. Yes. What are your weakness? So yeah, so what all questions I think you should take up, Pratap?
I will answer some of them in an umbrella, I think, and some of them in very that will you see after 5 years from now.
Again, a repeated question 5 years from now.
Why should we hire you? I think I answered why should we hire you is because, okay, I'll take it one by one. Don't worry about it. And guys, you'll have to stop. Okay, there are some people giving you a thumbs up. Is it possible for me to arrange it in that manner?
No.
Yeah, cool. It's okay. I think it's already in that manner. Great. What do interviewer expect from us? That is my entire slide after this. They expect, there are 4 things that an interviewer expects from you, and those are the 4 things that I will actually talk to you about in the next slide, right? So I hope that we can keep ourselves open till then. What should we say when someone asks, tell me about yourself, why should we hire you? Here's the thing, I've already, like I was explaining to you, know about the company, know about what amazing problem are they solving. So I'll tell you, give you a very basic example. Dunzo is trying to get, Dunzo is actually now trying to ensure that we deliver all the goods, all the groceries within 35 minutes to any user in the world, right? Wherever Dunzo actually exists. So when somebody comes to me and when I ask them, why should I hire you? They will pick a small portion of that problem and they'll say, hey, I know this. And by this skill that I know, I can help you deliver products to users within 35 minutes, right? So understand what a company does, understand their problem, understand the problem they are trying to solve, and then take your skill, attach it in a sentence and say, hey, because I have the skill, you can build this amazing thing. And because you can build this amazing thing, you can solve this problem for me, right? That's how you actually answer, why should we hire you? You need to know the problem that they are solving. Tell me about yourself, guys. I'll be very honest. Be honest. Just tell them that, hey, tell them about your attitude, tell them how you've been able to, how you've grown up in your early days and what all you have learned in your college, and tell them about the kind of personality that you are, and that's mostly it, right? I will take what are your weaknesses in a while because that comes under transparency and tone. Any tips for virtual interview? I will take that at the last, sir. Thank you. Can we follow up in a campus interview? Why not? Yes, definitely. I've had many students from tier 1, and I mean, let's not even differentiate. I don't think that's a very fair game. Any college, right, that I've taken interviews for, they actually ping me on LinkedIn and say, hey, I gave an interview about 10 days ago, any idea? And I actually get back to my team and figure out, damn, I forgot about it, right? So any campus interview or not, I would suggest for at least for campus interview, loop in your placement officer, somebody who has a better understanding and a better rapport with the company that is coming in to hire you, right? So make one demo interview now for 5 minutes. I doubt we could do that, but I would love to do it, just not today, sir. What to say mail, I will give you that. Sir, does one interview, does our interview is based on our resume? Yes, sir. 90% of the time it is. The remaining 10% of the time you're applying for maybe data roles, right? And resumes don't really help there. But you need, like I think the previous session was, if you have not attended, I think you can contact Campus Hire for it. Your resumes are very important at that point. They will drill you down on your resumes. We will drill you down. But also, apart from that, we will also ask you questions which are not related to your resume at all. See, resumes are a starting point for HR. And when I say HR, any interviewer, it's a starting point. We start from there, right? But as we get into the crux of the conversation, we leave the resume aside, we go with what you are actually telling us. So be very careful when you're answering questions related to your resume and be very truthful on your resume. Is it important to wear formals to the interview? No, trust me, it's not. But I would suggest have something decent put on. Decent is as good as the shirt. I could have come in a t-shirt as well, which is neat, and that's enough. Where will you see there's an interview based on our resume? What to say to the mail? I'll put that. I'm an average in my skills, but I really tense these days that my luck isn't hold out an interview. I'll get exactly the questions which I don't answer. I actually know this question. This is a very important. Somebody has asked me, I'm an average in all my skills, but I really tense that these, I don't know where that went. Yeah, sorry.
So Pratap, I see a very interesting question, which says that even after checking all the boxes that a company is looking for, why do most people don't get hired?
It's a very, after checking all the boxes that they are looking for is a very subjective statement, right? It's a 1 out of a 10 wala scenario at this point. I can't answer that in a general status because interviews are a more personal approach than saying, hey, you have 10 checkboxes and you will clear this and probably you will get onboarded as a trainee or anything else. But one of the things that I've seen as a pattern with interviewers, right, they don't have checkboxes as many as you think they do. Company as a checkbox would look at skills A, B, C, D. Interviewer as a checkbox would look at X, Y, Z. Now, there is a different checkbox that an interviewer is looking through because if not, you wouldn't be in an interview round. Let's be very honest. Your resume cleared the company's checkboxes. Your interview clears the interviewer's checkbox, and it's a very general question. I don't have an answer to that honestly, but if you feel that you did something and that didn't go well in the interview, you can always hit me up on email. Let's connect offline and I'll take it from there. Because general questions are very hard to answer in a panel of 505 as such, right? So, because, and I'll be very honest, there are two sets of expectations. One is a company, the other one is the HR. Avesh, do you want to pick out any other interesting questions that you're seeing?
So skill, non-tech. I see one more question. Like Sabrine has asked this question that we just get hardly a few minutes time to introduce ourselves, and maximum of our decisions of selecting or rejecting a candidate is based on that. So how can we make sure that within those couple of minutes we make sure to impress the interviewer in front of us?
I'll take that in the next slide. I'll take that in the next slide.
Sure. So I think you can continue now.
Great. Those of you are asking me if how do I answer the weakness wala question, I'll be very honest. There is no right answer to that, and because while I have asked people what's your weakness, I have received a very generous answer saying my weakness is that I am very perfect and I am a perfectionist, which is not true. I want you to be very honest about it. If your weakness is something that you have and something that you're working on, I am grateful to hire you. So my weakness today, and I'll be very honest about it, is my lack of time sense. Being a trainer, being an HR, that is the worst quality to have. But if somebody asks me in an interview, what's your weakness? I actually say, I do not know how to prioritize it yet. I am working on it, and these are the things that I am doing to ensure that tomorrow I prioritize better. The structure is very clear. My problem, right? What am I doing to solve that problem, and how long do you think it will take to solve that problem? So if anybody can get some kind of an advantage out of this answer, I hope you get it, because answering that question is a very, very tricky one. But I often ask people to be honest. I think honesty is the best way to get a job. It can't be any other way, right? So keeping that in mind, I'm going to actually take you through to the next one, which is a simple technique to cracking an interview, right? And that technique is nothing but STEP. Now, I'll give you an example of how this came into place, right? In the year 2018, we looked at, I think I already told you, right? We looked at about 7,500 interviews. Our whole knowledge base was due to one thing, that people wanted to understand that how can students crack interviews. And I always wondered in my free time that, okay, what are the most important things that a student needs to know? And when I asked a lot of industry experts, they said, no, he needs to know SQL, he needs to know this, he needs to know that. And when I looked, and me and my partner, when we looked at close to 7,500 interviews, it took us close to a year and a half to finish that, right? Every day about 3 hours. We realized that there are four very, very basic things that an interviewee needs to know when they are in the setting, right? In the interview panel. And it is nothing but STEP. And we called it the STEP process. This is your step to getting the new job. And I'll tell you what that step is. It is structure, tone, energy, patience. I know it doesn't sound like it's a new mantra of interview, right? It doesn't. It definitely isn't, guys. The more simplistic, the better for all of us. And I'll take you through each of it in about 3 minutes to 4 minutes each, so that we get enough time to have this conversation as much as possible. Somebody asked me, how do you impress someone when you're in that room for only 5 minutes? And I'll tell you that 5 minutes are the most important 5 minutes. I'm like the Shah Rukh Khan from Chak De India, right? But that 5 minutes can, if you perform all the four together, you're already 1 foot inside. See, you did your pre-work, so you're 1 foot in. You perform all of this, the other foot goes, and you're in the company. And I'll tell you what structure means. Can you break your answer down to a simplified version? For example, I once asked a person, hey, how do you build road? I know it's a very weird question, right? How do you build a road? You know what the answer was? And I'll give you about 30 seconds to imagine an answer for yourself and see if that matches the answer for that person. Right? Take that 30 seconds, think about the answer. When if somebody like me as an interviewer asked you, how do you build a road? Okay. I was just asking, is there a way to get someone to speak for like 30 seconds and ask them back to move to the attendees list? I could do that.
Yes, we can.
Okay. I think I'll take Teja. Yes. Yes, Teja. Go ahead. Please go ahead. Tell me, how will you build a road?
Teja, you'll have to just unmute yourself and you can speak.
Okay. There are other people in the audience. I will walk. Great plan. Okay.
All right. So I think we can take up someone else.
Yes.
Jyoti. Yeah. So Jyoti, please unmute yourself and please go ahead. Yeah.
Am I the only one who's facing this, or?
It seems like.
Jyoti, can you just click on the unmute button, the microphone button, and then you can speak. Same thing for Sushmita, Madhu, and Rakesh. You can just unmute yourself and you can speak.
Great. The question is, how will you build a road? Anybody can go for it. I don't mind. If you want to talk, please unmute yourself. The button is right at the bottom left. If you're on your phone, it will be somewhere there itself. Great. Let's not unmute a lot of people there. Can we? Great. Somebody.
Hello.
Okay.
Yes, Jyoti, tell me.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, that question. How do you build a road?
Yeah.
So that question, like, I don't think like in what sense you're asking. So you're just asking how do you build a road. So like for that question, I can say that I'll just prepare some pre-plans, and I'll make a blueprint of it, and I'll take a selective peoples like who have the skills, and I'll just start with that.
Great, you're selected. Okay, that's a very nice, interesting background.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anybody else? I think Sushmita is here. Can we take her? Yes. Yes, ma'am. Okay. I think we'll push our view back.
Well, okay, then we have Rakesh or Syed. Anyone?
You guys get about 30 seconds. If nobody talks, we will move it back. It's fine.
Syed, Sushmita, you can unmute and ask if you want. I'm going to go to, then next one is Nikhil and Manas. If you guys want to speak, you can. Yeah, Nikhil.
Okay. So first I will go and see the place where we want to build the road. Can it be built there or not?
Okay.
First I will go and look the place where I want to build a road. That road can be built there or not. Okay. Because like if it's a hilly area or like something is there, then I will check first. Then I will see next.
Okay, great. I like how you think, Nikhil. That's a wonderful answer. And I'll tell you, I think we can stop taking responses. I think there are a lot of people using hands at this point. Thank you, though. So, a lot of us, when we are actually doing this, and I think a lot of you people in the audience also want to answer. I think that's great, right? When you think about structure, right? Think about this in a very simplistic term. There is an answer, and then there are breakages of the answer. how do you answer this without actually sounding like you know everything? At the same time, being able to break down the answer into simple parts. So, like somebody said, I will actually go ahead and I'll do these six. I will do probably three things. I will understand the terrain. I will allocate my resources, and I will then get permission. Right? These are the top three things. Then let's break down allocating resources. While I'm allocating resources, I will go ahead and understand what resources needs to be procured. I will understand what are the different resources in the first place, where can I get it from, and what do I do with it. When it comes to getting permissions, I will understand who I should get permissions from, etc., etc., etc. So I start off at a top level where I am actually answering it in three different ways, right? And I have put across 3 points, and then I get into each of the point and start answering them. This shows that you are capable to solve a problem. That's how you solve problem, guys. And I'll give you a very simple example. 50% of the candidates are not able to think in a structured manner. So if 472 of you here can answer this question in a structured manner, that is, take the top three things that you will do, funnel it, and then break it down and answer them, then the HR already knows that you have the capacity to look at a problem, break down the problem, and answer that problem. And this can be for anything in the world. This can start from, hey, what's your 5-year goal? So your 5-year goal can be three things. You can then break down each thing and you can answer it. It can be, what is it that you want to achieve in your life? You can break it down to two things and you can answer it. Or it can be, what is your favorite movie? So you can say, hey, these are the two movies, or this is the one movie. The reason I like this movie is X and Y. If you do not have a flowchart in your mind when you're answering a question, people will think that you don't know what you need to know. And the most important thing in an interview is to make the other person believe that you know something, right? So use structure to do the most basic thing that an interviewer asks you to do, that is answer a question. Every time that you answer a question, make sure that you have a structure to the answer, even if it is technical, guys. Even if it is non-technical, have a structure to it. One more example that I can give you before I go ahead into the tone section of it is, structure also involves you understanding the question, right? Now, when somebody is asking you, what are the top three things that you like about your old job? Or what are the top three things that you like about your college, right? How do you judge that question? Why is that question being asked you? Think about that very carefully. He could have asked you, he or she could have asked you 10,000 questions, right? There are multiple scenarios. Why is it that that HR or that manager is asking you three things that you like about your college? It is to understand how you prioritize your college, how you look at your college, what your views are. So every time somebody is asking you a question, ask yourself, why is this person asking only this question out of the 20,000 possibilities there are to ask that question? And that why always is the answer behind how you can answer that question. So he or she is asking you the question why, or basically what do you like about your college, because they want to understand how you look at your college. You look at your college like a place where you learn, or a place that you are having fun at, or a jail. I don't know, depends on which college you come from. Mine was a jail, trust me. But they want to understand your perspective. It's not a surface level answer. You cannot give them, I like my college because they have great teachers. No, that's not the point of the question. They want to understand the perspective that you come from. That is a very important part of structure as well. So there are two ways to do this. One is to understand the question in itself. The second is to break down your answer into two or three umbrella, and then keep answering those points as you go along. Often the best interviewees that I've had do not just ask questions at the end of the interview, they ask it throughout the interview. Right? This is a line I'm copying from one of the leaders that I have met in the industry, but it's also a line that I personally endorse. People who ask relevant questions related to the question being asked to them, these are the people who get selected. And these questions can be anything, ranging from, can you repeat that, to, hey, is there something else that you could ask me? Or, okay, what are the different things that you want to know about me? It can be anything. Just make sure that you're asking the relevant question. Right? This is the structure that I'm talking about. I'll take a few Q&As after this, and I'm sure that we could possibly take a lot more offline if possible. Cool, let's go to the next one. So the first one is structure. The second one is a favorite thing of mine. It's called the tone. Now, once you have the structure in place, once you know how to answer a question, once you know how to break down your answer in two different things, your tone actually matters. Your confidence actually matters. I'll tell you why this is the case. I interviewed a lady about a month ago who had amazing skills, right? She could write codes I didn't even imagine in my life. She was just not into the conversation. She just did not want to be there. Her tone sound, and I know that she might be having a bad day, she might be having a worse day, but I get 5 minutes, right? All of you say this, that you get 5 minutes with the interviewer. Interviewer also gets only 5 minutes with you. So the point is, I had to make a decision basis, will she be a right fit in my company? Because my company is a startup. I need people who are energetic. Take a decision. Can you modulate your voice to match your feelings? This is the most basic communication technique that I can tell you in an interview, that people judge even without knowing that they're judging you for this. And this is the wrong word to use, judging. But in this scenario, they are in their mind looking at you, hearing you, and actually subconsciously capturing the tone that you're using. So I ask you this very simply. Can you modulate your voice to match your feelings? If you're explaining about your failure, can your voice be lower? If you're explaining about your achievements, can your voice be higher? If you're explaining about something very important, can your voice match that intensity? Because people as interviewers genuinely, subconsciously are listening to you. So your structure is an amazing thing to have, but at the same time, the tone sets the platform for all things greater. Right? That's what I think is the most important part. There is one technique that I've used, that every time I'm happy, my tone goes higher. Every time I'm sad, my tone is lower. Every time I talk about something that matters, my tone is a little bit more higher. So keep that in mind when you're talking to an interviewer. And there is nothing that says you're too eager. No. That is the next question. Are you eager to work with the company? Are you willing to learn everything about the question, about the company? Are you willing to put yourself out there? 90% of the people who have entered interview rooms are not eager. They have just applied to the job because they need a job. And an interviewer in the next 3 seconds, and I'm not even kidding, this is a actual fact that I can give you. Within 10 seconds of starting an interview, interviewer knows whether you have come here because you just want the job or you really want the company. And I honestly want you guys to do your pre-work enough so that when you are in that situation, you show that eagerness through the knowledge that you have about the company as well as about the process that you're interviewing for. Right? That is a very important part of the STEP process that we came across through close to 7,000 research that we have done, right? Structure, tone, eagerness, and my personal favorite, can you listen to every aspect of the question before you start answering? Now, this is a question that I've asked myself as well, because I often tend to start answering even before the question is ended, or I wait too patiently and I never answer the question at all. But as an interviewer, we saw that most of the people are already sitting this way and already jumping into the answer even before the interviewer finished it. Yes, you're eager, but are you patient? Are you willing to listen to the interviewer? Are you allowing the interviewer to ask you questions that are uncomfortable? Are you sitting back and saying, it's okay, let him ask or let her ask me whatever they want to ask me, and I will still patiently wait out here? The best interviews are done, and the best interviewees are those who are patient enough to wait for the question, as well as patient when they're answering the question. Right? This is a general mantra that we have used over the period of time, that you have a structure to your answer. How do you impress someone? Is you use these four things. You have a structure. You learn everything about the company. You structure your answers. You express carefully. You stay on top of your energy, right? Because your energy actually matters. You wait patiently and you follow up diligently. I'm going to take about last close to about 2 minutes to explain to you what follow up means. Follow up, there are two things to follow up. The first one is during the interview, right? When you actually go there, you're sitting in front of the Zoom call and you're like, hey, I finished this. I've finished the interview. I've answered most of the questions. Now what? This is the time you ask them, hey, could you tell me a little bit more about the job? What are the different perks? If any question, right, please feel free to ask them about it. That if you don't ask, you don't get an answer, right? That's a very basic concept. Follow-ups inside an interview are very simple. Ask them questions that you want them to answer. From money, okay, don't, I mean, ask about money, ask it about in terms of perks and things that they can give you apart from the actual CTC, because the CTC is already calculated and told you, right? The next one is obviously the location, the kind of job, the kind of manager, the kind of freedom. One of the things that I really like about interviewees is when they ask me about how much freedom do you think I'll get to experiment solving a problem. Imagine that an interviewee who is coming fresh out of a college is asking me amazingly that, hey, tell me about the freedom in your company, that's when I'll come to you. That is the control that you guys have over an interviewer. Let me remind you that. You are taking the job as much as the interviewer is giving it to you, right? So be very careful when you ask these, but that's the type one of follow-up. These are the questions that you ask inside an interview. The second one happens close to about 5 to 10 days later. The kind of mail that you could send is a very simple one. It is, hi, my name is so-and-so. I have attended the interview on XYZ date, and I had cleared all the rounds and I had come to the final round. I'm yet to hear back from you. Could you please let me know? Is there something that I can help to expedite the process? Simple, right? These are the 5 things that you need to say. Your name, when did you interview, what college are you from, what is it that you interviewed for, and then, boss, what happened? I interviewed, could you let me know what the results are, or could you please let me know what is it that I can do to help you make a better judgment? 9 out of 10 times, HRs actually forget, because they interview close to 200, 300 people. The line managers interview close to 30, 40 people. So they're bound to forget. Don't let them forget you. Even if the decision was a no, ask them for feedback. That is the other type of follow-up. If you ever get rejected, right? And I got rejected a lot, and I'll be very honest about it. I got rejected from close to about 35 companies in a month. And I'll tell you what I did. The best thing that I learned from that was go to 35 companies. I went to each of them and I said, boss, tell me where I went wrong. Now, if you don't tell me where I went wrong, I will not leave the room. Now, that is a very important part of the follow-up as well. If you do not get selected, which is fine, because the conversation process that you have undergone, right, it's a learning experience. You take that, you take the feedback, you go to the next one. And by choice, I'll tell you what, you will get a good job. Trust me. Once you are able to perform the step and bust those 3 myths, understand the process of interview, understand your pre-work, have a real eagerness to work for a company, you will get that job. I don't promise you, but I do assure you that. Right? So that's my time. It's exactly 7:30. And as said, I think there's a lot of Q&As jumping up. Oh my God.
So
Yes, Avesh, please tell me.
So Pratap, you are done with the content today. So I think we should start taking up the questions now. So guys, whatever questions is coming up in your mind right now, just shoot it up in the Q&A box. Let's see.
I'll actually take one of these. I think there was something around nervousness, and I wanted to actually, I actually wanted to address that in a very, very simplistic manner. Now, the place that I come from, that is the communication techniques that I teach in the training and development space that I am in. There is a technique called anchoring. And I want you to talk to yourself before you enter any interview. And I'll tell you why is that important, right? Right that 30 seconds or 1 minute before you enter an interview, if you tell yourself that I am a leader and I will do this, I will get the right outcome and I will actually prosper in this interview, you actually will. And this is a proven research. How many of you talk to yourself? Let's by a quick raise of hands, I'm sure all of you talk to yourself. Yes? Perfect. I see the number going up. All of you are talking to yourself, right? Now imagine telling yourself that you are the best in the industry. I am great. I am good. I can do this. I am a leader. I'm going to come out with I'm going to come out with the offer letter in my hand. A lot of people wonder, how is this important? It is important because you are actually kindling your own self-belief. In the communication space that I work with, I tell people to talk to them at least 4 times a day. Each time tell them how important it is to be a leader and how important it is to do what they do. So if you're actually nervous, right, which all of us are, trust me, at 6:20, I joined this call at about 6 o'clock. At 6:20, I was telling both my panelists that I'm very scared because there are close to 400 people on the call. And I'm nervous that I might say something I shouldn't, or I might not say something I should have. That's common. It's very, very common. You're supposed to be nervous because that's a very innate human nature. But at 6:27, before they opened the room, I said to myself, it's okay. I'm a good leader. I've done this 100 times. I have trained 30,000 people. Screw 30,000. I have been able to do what I love and I have been able to do it diligently. I am a leader and I will get out of this session by helping close to 400 people. And by 6:30, I was already here. So it gets it a little bit into that psyche that how do I beat this? How do I beat the nervousness? But I think if you can keep talking to yourself every time you go into a interview room, you will find it very helpful. I think I answered that pretty much. Thank you, anonymous attendee, for asking that. Whoever asked me how to handle nervousness before. Okay. I'll go to the most bottom.
So Pratap, there is one question which I think is quite interesting one. Like how should a student or a candidate deal with a situation where he doesn't know an answer to a particular question during an interview?
Very interesting. I think instead of tone, I had added transparency and then I removed it and then I realized those are the two things that we came across in the research as well. Say you don't know. Simple. If you don't know, you don't know. I'll be very honest. I've actually hired a person who didn't know any of the technical questions that I answered, but he was very honest about it. And he said that if you can give me 30 minutes, I'll go back out. I will research everything. I'll get the basics of it right, and I'll come back. And I've interviewed so many people with the same integrity where they say, sir, I don't know about this. I've not read about this. I've not got exposed to this. But if you can give me some time, I can read about it and I can come back and explain to you. Is that all right? Right? This is one of the ways that I've always admired people. And this is a general practice in HR that if it's a skill-based question, right? If it's a skill-based question, and if you don't know it, then you say, I don't know it entirely. If you know a little bit about it, if you've heard about it, you honestly say, hey, I've heard about this. And this is something that I've not explored it much. If you have done a little bit of work, but you have not worked a lot on it, you say, I've worked a little, but I'm still trying to understand what I can do with that skill. In all the three scenarios, you're just being honest, right? That's the requirement. Be honest. I think, Avish, that should answer the question, if that's all right.
Interesting. So, Pratap, I had one more question. I think that question is something which I had personally also. I wanted to understand. Okay. And I see one or two people have actually asked that question. So it's basically about, like, since in the starting you were mentioning that you have taken interviews in Kannada, Gujarati, and other different languages, correct?
Yes.
So now I see, like, we have a crowd which is like consists of a lot many people from different parts of India, and I'm pretty sure their first language will not be English. So is it a necessary thing that how important is English when we are giving an interview? Because, like, for example, English is a business language which is used worldwide. So how to deal with that kind of situation?
I will not lie to you that the English is not really important. English is important because it gives you a common ground. It gives you a very common ground, and it gives you a level playing field. Imagine tomorrow you have to talk to someone in Europe, can't really use my Kannada, right? But it depends on what kind of job you're applying. So in the same conversation that I was saying that I've taken interviews for in Hindi, Kannada, and in other languages, I also meant that these are not customer-facing jobs, right? These are not client-facing jobs, because most of the client-facing jobs requires you to have a strong hold on your English. A lot of these jobs were also technical. I'll be very honest. We hired a coder for R and SQL who did not know, who could not speak the level of English that the company required, right? But we hired him only because he had the skill set to match. And eventually he learned better English than most of us, and today conducts stand-ups in my office. The question here is my English good enough to have a normal, decent conversation over a cup of coffee with someone? Hi, how are you? What do I do? How do you do? How can we talk about this? What are the basic things about my life? And that's probably the most important part, right? Now, there's a lot of work to be done in the Indian setting, at least, about how English is perceived. I've worked with a lot of European contractors as well as the American ones. What happens is they actually have a translator sometimes. If the person who does not know the English, who does not know English, is taking an interview, they have a translator in place, and the translator does most of the question answers. Right? I was a translator for one of the guys in Dharwad who didn't know English but had substantially understood data pipeline of a company in US. He actually did not even know English, so they had a translator, and I had to translate between the two parties, and he actually got the job. So in the Indian setting today, I would ask you all to brush up on your English a little bit, at least to have a conversation. But in a more global setting, which I think you all should aim for, Indian setting is too small. The world is a huge space and they don't care about the language. I hope that answers your question as well, Avesh.
Right. So guys, any other questions you are having?
How can I upgrade my level of English? Watch Netflix.
Watch Netflix, binge watch.
Netflix. I'll tell you what, I run a communications masterclass for adult literacy for the government of India, and we make them watch close to 2 hours of Netflix every day with subtitles. I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. This is actual practice of a government of India program, right? And we make them read a lot. Exposure allows you to get a good amount of decision making skills, and your vocabulary increases. Read a lot, watch a lot of Netflix, Prime, whichever you like, and spend as much time as you can practicing the language that you're learning. I'm currently learning Sindhi, and I'm also learning Malayalam, right? So I try a lot of my time I spend a lot of my time trying to speak the language, not just understand the language and learn it. So I hope that answers your question, whoever that asked. Yes, yes, sir. Being sir, I'm a non-IT. I took a ECE and I'm learning some coding. So how could that affect me in interview? Non-IT students. No, sir. Non-IT students, IT students, if you're applying for a role which is an IT related, you will be tried upon and you will be tested upon the same skill set. There is no differentiation because you came from an ECE background. I come from a computer science. I teach communications. When I go to ask for a job in communications, it will not matter to them where I come from. It matters to them what you're learning and what your skill set is going to be. I hope that answers this. Yes, please share all your feedbacks on the session using
So guys, meanwhile, we are answering the questions. In the meanwhile, there's a link shared with you guys. So probably you can just fill it up and tell us about your experience of this particular webinar and what all topics you would like us to cover in the future sessions as well. And for those who want a recorded session for this, yes, it is already available on Facebook, so you can access to that.
Great. I think I'll take one from Vaibhav Srivastava. Say if I'm asked, what do you bring to the company, and say I don't have that much of technical knowledge, how would I get the placement being that I don't bring much towards the company? This is a very important question that I have answered for myself as well. I interviewed for Infosys, Infosys' technical round when I was in college. And then when they asked me, I had a very non-coherent answer to them. When I say non-coherent, I mean, I didn't know what to answer. Only 6 years later, when I did the course on technical communications, I realized one thing. You are an entire person. You don't need to just bring your technical knowledge to the table. You also bring your problem solving. You also bring your attitude. You bring your experience. You bring your biases. So maybe you have a way of tackling a problem in the past, and you can use that. So if your technical knowledge isn't up to that mark, which I would ask you again to reevaluate, because you're applying for a technical job, you should have the basic technical knowledge at least. I'm sure you do. But if you think you do not, you're not at that level yet, then bring to the table all the other things that you are as a person, right? Bring your communication, bring your knowledge about books, right? Bring problem solving techniques. Say, at my house did not have water last night, right? I actually figured out how to get the water tanker within 10 minutes, get water filled and all of that. You solved a problem, right? That is what companies want. They don't want people who can code. They want people who can code and solve problems. So Viber, my question to you is, look at yourself and tell me, what other skills do you have that you can help a company like Dunzo with? And I will probably reach out to you, or you can reach out to me and you can tell me that, and let's see if we can hire you. Okay, I'm not promising anything. My manager will kick me out, but yeah. I truly want to know, because if your question is, I don't have enough technical skills, I'm sure you have something better than that, boss. I have zero technical skills, by the way. Okay.
So I think, Pratap, we have taken up a lot of questions. So I think this should be all then, yeah, right? Or do you want to take up some other questions? So guys, do you have any other questions today?
I think we're just getting a lot of these. This was really helpful. Feeling good with 200 others. Whoever has that, feeling good with 200 others. I respect your meme game.
Interesting, interesting.
I'll probably take one more. I really love this. But I know there's a time constraint and I don't want to push it further than there is. Avish, if you can pick one question that you feel is interesting. Let's go for it.
All right, so take a Pratap, you have, so which questions you're asking to?
1 second, I'll just take this. This is very close to my heart. Sir, does degree really matter? Can't a person get selected for a job role which is not similar to the degree they pursued? If yes, I would love to know how should we overcome this issue. Sabreen, first of all, thank you so much. You're the crux of the country that is asking this question in a very vocal manner. And I would really love to see you come to the forefront of the kind of institutions that we have today and ask this more loudly. Having said that, I'll tell you what the technical challenges of not having a degree in a company looks like. There is a company amendment law for employees, right? 1979 to 1985, it got amended thrice. The reason why you need to have a degree, I'm talking about any degree, it can be anything in the world, is because managers and above need to have a degree. That is the law of the land. Now, there is a little tweak to that. If a manager has close to 2 years of experience, that person does not need a degree. That's how the constitution of the whole law for employment is built in India, right? And I'm only talking about India. I'm not even talking about any other country in the world. Every other country actually takes a dropout, and they can make them a leader as well, right? But in India, that is the sad reality. Now, coming to the second part of the question, the first part was, is degree really necessary? The second part was, if I have a degree in computer science, can I go and do mechanical engineering work? You can definitely do it if you know it. I have a lot of people in engineering. I have a lot of people in HR who had studied BCom and who had studied, I have 3 computer science engineers in my HR team, right? All 3 great people managers, understand people, have a lot of empathy. They can drive any conversation and they can drive any projects. The question, however, is, do you have the right skill set to do it? Skill set versus degrees are 2 different things that I would really ask you to reevaluate. Can I sit down and create a website within 30 days? That's a skill set. Do I have a degree to create a website even without knowing how to do it? That's a degree. Ask yourself, which one do you do? Do you have a degree to create a website, or do you actually know how to create a website? And this is just a random example, but yeah, if you know how to do it, no HR can tell you, sorry boss, you can't come to this. I think, yes, Avesh, thank you for the personal message. I will, it was amazing talking to all of you, and I hope that we can keep meeting in one or the other way possible, right?
So guys, yeah, I think that's all. So probably we are Campus Hire who are organizing this place informative sessions every Saturday. So basically we are a campus placement enablement system providing like easy hiring solutions to various companies with one-click access to top university talent. So if you guys are looking for jobs or internships, so you probably should go on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and like our page. And also if you are like, just keep a watch on the space for the other informative sessions which are coming up the next Saturday and the weekend next to that. So also I would like to thank Yogi on the behalf of campus CII and Young Indian to like help us out with this informative session, and also Canva to help us out with the session again. So yeah.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Happy to be part of this.
So I see quite a lot, many participants actually found it useful. So good to see that. So guys, watch out for this space again. So next Saturday, we will be back again with an informative session. So that would be all for today. Thank you everyone for joining. Have a good weekend ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Mr. Pratap, for doing this, for taking time. Pratap, if you can just come on the video for a minute.
Oh, yes. Sorry. I switched it off because there's a lot of disturbance at the back.
No issues. Thanks a lot for doing this. On behalf of CII and Canva and Young Indians, I would like to thank you for taking these sessions and making sure the students are able to pick these skills. Of students, just a small request from my end is whatever you have learned, please go start applying it. That is first one.
Exactly.
That way you will
That's
be able to learn. You'll be able to. You will know how to use this. That is one. Second one is if you don't have an interview coming up and you don't figure out a way to test these skills, another way is teach some of your friends. Whatever you have learned, just share it with your friends. That way you will remember it further. That's it. That's the two quick tips which helps us also remember a lot of these information. All right. Perfect.
Reach out to Pratap on social media, reach out to Yogi on social media,
Absolutely.
reach out to me on social media, reach out, look out for our pages. So we will be keep on posting some stuff which will be helpful for you in getting some jobs, internship or other places.